What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into NFL Daily. We promise you Tom and I will not be fighting for the next hour.
Bet. Bet. It'll happen at least one point.
Dog days of August. There's some footage there that you just saw of some teams going at it.
Put a lot of strong men that are tired and frustrated and hot.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
All right, of course, we have injuries as well to get through, so let's get to it here, Tom. Talk about Alshon Jeffery, and he is no stranger to the injury report.
You know, there was the report earlier this week from Rappaport who said, you know, he might start the year on the PUP list, and then Doug Peterson today was kind of like, no, we're happy with his progress, and kind of threw some cold water on it. Rappaport did something similar about Carson Wentz. Of course, Wentz did not go on the PUP list to start training camp, so he's been good there. I think we'll see him for week one, but I do think this is something to monitor because Jeffery is banged up a little bit. So is Nelson Aguilar. So you get rid of those two guys, which obviously is not going to be the full-on case here for Philly. You have Mike Wallace, Marcus Wheaton, Mac Hollins, and Kamar Aiken.
Not inspiring
I
stuff.
mean, to be fair, if you get rid of any team's top two receivers, it's not going to look great. But that is just worth monitoring, I think.
Alshon Jeffery is actually a popular regression candidate this year in fantasy football circles.
I like him.
You like him this year?
I'm not a take. I'm not going to spend a relatively high pick on him, but I've done some mock drafts where I can get him as like my number 2 or 3 receiver after going RB heavy early, so I'm fine with that one.
Okay, we'll see what happens if he is indeed starting the year on the PUP list. Stay tuned for that. All right, what's the deal with Obi here? Do we have a lower body issue?
Obi Melifonwu was starting to border on like the hypothetical side of things, like does he actually exist? Because he's hardly played football.
So like Luol Deng with the Lakers.
Exactly. Does he still exist? And you're saying that because you saw a Deng comment in the comment section. But yes. So Obi is meeting with a specialist regarding his lower body injury. Of course, nothing more like that. We're now at the hockey terms here, Cam, for NFL players. They have upper body and lower body, nothing else. I like the talent that he brings, the upside, the physical attributes, but if he can't get on the field, the Raiders are actually pretty deep at safety. Reggie Nelson, Marcus Gilchrist are kind of competing for one starting role. Gilchrist actually might end up being that starter. Carl Joseph, of course, is not going anywhere.
Nope.
Shalom Luani is a guy that I like as a backup special teams type guy. And then Eric Harris, too, has played pretty well so far for the Raiders. So Obi Melifonwu kind of just needs to get healthy. And it was the hip injury last year that kind of ended his season, even though it was kind of banged up for the entire thing. The fear is that this current lower body injury is tied to the hip injury from last year, which would be really bad.
Everything's connected, Tom.
Yeah, knee bone, thigh bone, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Martavis Bryant. Man Crates gives us this little nugget of information. So apparently, Bryant is dealing with some migraines, missed his second straight practice. This is not good news for a guy that recently got called out by Chucky.
Have you had a migraine before, Cam?
Yes, they suck.
They are awful.
They're really obnoxious.
So I want to make it clear that a migraine is not just like a bad headache. This is not Martavis Bryant saying, oh, my head hurts, I'm going to take the day off. It's, I have a migraine. I can't do anything right now.
Right.
Like, can you just put me in a dark room with a cool towel over my head and I'll sit here and cry until
your
the migraine
eyesight is like all blurry and it's really weird.
I've been to the hospital for migraines before because my mom thought I was having a stroke when I got my first one.
Jeez.
Because I couldn't talk and I couldn't see and I was stumbling around. It was bad. It was real bad. So hopefully Martavis Bryant is okay. He did come back to practice today. That's a good sign for him. But like you mentioned, Cam, Martavis Bryant has to actually be on the field. John Gruden went full Gruden today and said he calls Martavis Bryant the White Tiger because he used to go to Busch Gardens to see the White Tiger and he was always in his cage. 13 times, but when he finally came out, it was special, and that's Martavis Bryant. When he's on the field, he's looked really good for Oakland, but he's been missing time in practice so far.
He's got to get on the field and learn this Greg Olsen offense, so hopefully he can recover from these migraines, which, of course, have been an issue before there for Martavis Bryant. All right, let's talk about Ben Roethlisberger. He is currently undergoing the concussion protocol, Tom. Doesn't seem to be too big of a worry, though.
It's not a worry for like, oh, is he going to be able to play in week one?
Right.
Like, he'll be back. My actual concern for Big Ben is that he's made comments in the past about, and I think accurately so, look, the head injuries are a thing, you know, what if that shortens my career? You keep getting concussions at a certain point, you're going to walk away from the game because you want to be able to have a life after you're 50 or 60 because otherwise, what's the point there? So I think that Big Ben's going to be fine for that case. I do worry just a little bit overall about his long-term prognosis. You know, I think for the short term, he's going to be fine, though. You know,
you can always worry about Ben.
Yeah,
it's easy to worry about Ben. Yeah.
Like, the dude doesn't play 16 game years. I think he's done it like 3 times in his NFL career. So Pittsburgh goes as Big Ben goes. If he's healthy, they're going to win like 11, 12, 13 games, whatever. If he gets hurt, you got Landry Jones and you're in big, big trouble.
Okay, so that's the deal there with Mr. Ben Roethlisberger. How about Mr. Ballage here with the Miami Dolphins, a Dolphins backfield that is currently, or was, getting punched at by former defensive tackle that is now a member of another team. We'll talk about that. But yes, Ballage, what's the deal?
He is in concussion protocol. He went through Monday's padded practice there and Tuesday's practice. So that's a note for Kalen Ballage. I think he'll be fine, especially at this point of the year. They're very, very cautious with when they're going to put guys in the protocol, even more so than they are during the actual season. I think he'll be fine. It's just a little bit unfortunate for him because he is a first-year player, and you want to get those guys as many reps as they need. Frank Gore doesn't need reps. He's had more reps than the rest of the halfbacks combined. They can give those to Ballage instead. Unfortunately, they can't right now.
Want to give a couple quick shout-outs to some watchers on YouTube Live, Jabari and Daddy Smokes, saying hey to Cam Rogers, yours truly, your favorite broadcaster. Thank you guys for the love.
Thanks, guys.
But
appreciate
hey, Tom Downey is back from vacation, so let's give Tom some love at the same time. All right, Rashaad Penny didn't get a lot of love when he got drafted, at least from us, Tom. We weren't a fan of the selection, but recently had surgery. Now his week 1 status is very much up in the air.
I think he'll play, and the note that Adam Schefter had was it was the same surgery that Robinson Cano had. He was ready to go within 3 weeks for baseball. So I would imagine that Penny is good to go for week 1. Now maybe they play cautious. I don't think he'll be the starter. I think for right now, that's going to be Chris Carson, which I don't think is what Seattle really wanted in the end. And the other report was that it's a very minor injury. Had this been like week 15 of the playoffs, Cam, he would have played through it.
Yeah.
So this is a, hey, you know what? Let's just take care of it now. There's little reason to risk it. Let's just get it fixed and be good to go for the actual season. When we need you, we don't need you for week 2, week 3, week 4 of the preseason.
One of the bigger mysteries out there is the Seattle Seahawks running back depth chart. Chris Carson is the top line guy for now. Rashaad Penny in the most recent depth chart was actually at number 2 ahead of Preseason and Mike Davis.
It's intriguing, this entire depth chart overall, because Carson and Penny are locked in. I would assume Mike Davis has a spot too. That actually was one spot for CJ Preseason, a former relatively high pick out of Notre Dame, and then J.D. McKissick as well. So it's an interesting backfield. I think at a certain point, though, Cam, we'll see Rashaad Penny be the featured back for Seattle Seahawks because they draft him to be that. They want to let him be the guy there. Frankly, if it's Chris Carson all year long, Seattle did something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so will Seattle make the playoffs? Hit us up in this reaction poll. Give us a heart for yes and a like for no. Let's talk about Saquon Barkley, who recently suffered a mild hamstring strain. It does not seem like a big deal, but at this juncture, you play it safe.
Shermer said it's just a tweak. He's going to be day-to-day. He did not practice today either. And look, they're not going to rush Saquon Barkley back because what's the benefit of that?
Nothing.
Oh, he got some practice reps that he probably doesn't even really need all that much because he's Saquon Barkley. Or he aggravates it even worse, and now he's out for the first half of the season, and you got to go with Wayne Gallman, and all of a sudden, your number 2 overall pick isn't on the field for you. There's no reason to rush Saquon Barkley back, and he'll play in week 1. I have no doubts about that, barring another re-aggravation, which I don't think is going to happen in the end. And it is camp in the preseason, so we all get a little bit worked up when we see a guy with his hamstring wrapped up and walks off the practice field. Saquon's going to be okay.
Yeah, Twitter went wild the other day.
Understandably so. There's fantasy implications here. There's a lot of stuff going on.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line and Travis Frederick. Tom, this was somewhat new that came through the wires. What's the latest with Travis?
So Travis Frederick here has a shoulder issue. He had tests done today. He has been bothered by stingers throughout training camp. The Cowboys and Frederick are still awaiting the results of those, but they don't think the issue is serious. With that said, if Frederick does miss time, I know it's a center and offensive lineman are often overlooked at times. I think there's a real argument. It's one that I've made before. Frederick is actually the most valuable player on the entire Cowboys roster because he is the center. And without Frederick, you're turning to Joe Looney. And oh, by the way, the guy who could have been your center too, Marcus Martin, is out for the year.
Yeah.
So you better hope that there's not like some kind of tear in his shoulder and that it's just a minor stinger issue and he's going to be fine for the season because you need Frederick out there. The Cowboys' entire offensive line is the focal point of their team. They want to be able to run the football behind it. You lose your all-pro center, perhaps the best center in the game, you're in big trouble.
That's the identity of Dallas, offensive line and run game. All right, let's talk about DeVante Parker. He recently broke his finger. Adam Gase said he's week to week. The year of DeVante Parker not off to a great start, Tom.
Well, it's been the year of DeVante Parker for like 3 years now.
That's
Every
fair.
year, this is the year for Parker. Maybe not so much this year now.
I think it's the year of Kenny Stills.
Parker can't actually catch right now because of the finger issue, a broken middle finger. So Gase was more or less like, hey, I'm not going to make any promises here one way or the other, but we'll see what happens. So here's a look at the depth chart. I'll make note here, Albert Wilson, in all likelihood, actually might be as the number 2 receiver with Parker out.
Yep.
I put him in the slot because it's when we split with the Chiefs. But Albert Wilson, I think, is a bit of an underrated player for the way the Dolphins plan to use him. I thought overpaid, but he's going to be a big factor in that passing game as well.
All right, so that's the rundown there with DeVante Parker. We'll see if he can get back on the football field relatively soon for the Miami Dolphins. You guys are watching NFL Daily, presented by Man Crates. Hey, do you know an awesome guy who needs a gift at Man Crates? Gifts are carefully curated, like a museum, but actually exciting. We're talking about personalized barware, jerky grams, project kits, and so much more. Mancrates.com is indeed the website. These are awesome gifts guys love. Get it done today. They're sponsoring the show here on this Wednesday evening. Let's continue along here with some of these training camp / preseason injuries. Philip Dorsett is okay with the New England Patriots right now.
Good, because he went down with what looked to be a non-contact knee injury. Everyone kind of got like, oh boy, another Patriots receiver down. He's fine. He's not going to miss any time. Of course, New England already lost Malcolm Mitchell for the year. I guess cut him. And then Edelman suspended for the first 4 games as well.
So if Dorsett was going to miss some time, Des Bryant rumors galore.
Oh, well, absolutely for you, buddy.
Yeah.
You still think it's going to happen?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I just actually released a list on my Twitter at Mr. Rogers99 of Des Bryant's best fits, and New England's still number 1.
There you go.
So staying true to that. All right, let's talk about the kicker, Cairo Santos.
Kickers are people too, Cam. So we'll make quick note of it because Santos, who is a good kicker when healthy, is dealing with another groin problem. Now, that was why the Chiefs cut him last year. It's why the Bears put him on IR at the end of the season. Now he is hurt again. He's not practicing. That leaves Taylor Bertolette as the only kicker on the Jets. No one knows who that is.
I have no idea.
Some of his family doesn't even know who that is. So if you're the Jets, you might want to start looking for some free agent kickers out there, because if Santos misses time, I know it's kicking and it's not the most important thing, but you're going to be real mad when you lose a game 24-22 because your kicker missed a 35-yard field goal.
Hey, it matters.
Right, Chargers?
Okay, so Cairo Santos dealing with a groin injury as we stand right now. We'll see how he progresses throughout the time there.